Humanity is on a collision course with a horrific end. If the common people of the world continue to stall and allow the elite technocratic eugenicists to promote their psychotic agenda and their tentacles in government affecting our daily lives.
We penetrate the cabinets.
Klaus Schwab is the head of the World Economic Forum, and he bragged how his subversive WEF, World Economic Forum, has, quoted, infiltrated governments around the world. In the interest of transparency, could the member please name which cabinet ministers are on board with the WEF's agenda?
The member was in a really good question there, but the audio is really bad, and the video is really bad as well.
Mr. Speaker, that member is promoting open disinformation.
The World Economic Forum is pushing for a global ID by 2026, fueled by blaming the average citizen for their carbon footprint.
Why is the World Economic Forum bothering with digital identity? Why are we looking into it? Why is it such an important topic for us?
How we construct and use digital identities would determine how people are represented online, what opportunities they have access to, what or who is trusted online.
So it's also a very important tool for financial inclusion.
It's a starting point where a number of actors, from the international development community and the private sector and everything in between have started to come together to think about what principles should be governing the use of these systems.
Yet, not a word from the Bilderberg attending industries that continue to produce endocrine system hormone blockers within phthalates and bisphenol A in plastics to pesticides in our food to shampoo to receipts to water bottles to electronics to cleaning products and carpets. Regardless of the fact that the chemicals from these industries could wipe out the human race by 2045, as leading reproductive epidemiologist Shanna Swan and her team of researchers found that during the past 40 years, sperm levels among men in Western countries had more than halved and could deplete to zero by 2045 due to the toxicity of plastic.
When did this stuff start getting into our food supply?
The growth of these chemicals tracks with the growth of the petrochemical industry. So back in 1950, there's this better living through chemistry that everyone's talking about, and everybody is just wanting everything made of plastic. That's just one example of the many chemicals that can affect our hormone system.
When waves are breaking, they create these mists, but they're actually transferring microplastics from the ocean into the air that we're breathing.
By analysing air samples from 2 Auckland locations, Dr. Joel Rindolaw's team of researchers calculated that 74 metric tonnes of microplastics drop over the city each year. And it could have consequences for our health because microplastics have been detected in human lungs.
Furthermore, in a recent study, it was observed that the Y chromosome found in the male species is degenerating and will eventually disappear, leading scientists to hypothesize that a new male chromosome will eventually replace the Y chromosome. Meanwhile, the replacement for the labor of mankind is here, as a turning point has been reached in robotic AI technology, allowing robots to see objects of varying shapes and sizes and adjust their grasp accordingly. This will rapidly replace millions of workers. As World Economic Forum tainted areas lead the way on pushing people to commit for merely being a burden on the state.
Imagine choosing death over homelessness. That's what one St. Catharines man is contemplating. Tonight on City News, we continue to delve into medically assisted dying and how some believe it is their only option to living in poverty.
All of these and many more major crises that face the future of humanity are tacitly collected under the net of the New World Order by its assets in the World Economic Forum and the United Nations. Rather than allow the populace to properly face their fate, the architects protecting global corporate interests pose as our saviors, projecting steadfast organization.
Now the United Nations is warning the coronavirus crisis has put the world on the brink of a hunger pandemic. 265 million people could face acute food shortages by the end of the year. That is double last year's projections.
While rapidly fomenting order out of chaos, humanity must respond to this new world order dogma or vanish under the boot of the coming totalitarianism.
And the title of this session, are we ready for a new world order.
With all the current issues on our agenda, we tend to forget that we are in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution, which accelerates global change in much more comprehensive and faster ways than the previous three revolutions. I'm proud that the government of Dubai has been so foresighted in establishing a Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution in cooperation with the World Economic Forum. The objective is to quickly recognize the potential of new technologies, as well as develop the necessary ethical and political frameworks around those new technologies to ensure that those technologies are human-centered and society-oriented.
Well, it may be a bit late for that. I remember talking to an Australian diplomat at one point about this break between the US and China and said, you know, both sides are going to say, whose team are you on? And he said, our job is to make sure the question never arises. But the question has arisen. And so I think we have to go deeper. And it's not about the US versus China. It's about what underpins a world order is always the financial system. I was very privileged. My father was an advisor to Nixon when they came off the gold standard in '71. And so I was brought up with a kind of inside view of how very important the financial structure is to absolutely everything else. And what we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new one, the new accounting, is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. In my opinion, we're going to need a digital constitution of human rights if we're going to have digital money. But also, this new money will be sovereign in nature. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private. But what I see are superpowers introducing digital currency. The Chinese were the first. The US is on the brink, I think, of moving in the same direction. The Europeans have committed to that as well. And the question is, will that new system of digital money and digital accounting accommodate the competing needs of the citizens of all these locations so that every human being has a chance to have a better life? Because that's the only measure of whether a world order really serves.
You will own nothing. And you will be happy.